there we go. All right, so I'm gonna go to, we're gonna talk about layers today, and I'm gonna go to this PC, and I'm gonna go to CAD Common, and I'm gonna go to Arch, and 1310, and Drawings. Delete all of those. And I'm going to go to AIA layers, and I'm going to open that file. So, yep, let's go to that. I'm going to go to this PC, and I'm going to go to CAD Common, Arch, 1310, click. I'm going to go to Drawings, and AIA layers, that very first one. All right, and I'm going to, just so I'm disconnected from the network file, save as, desktop, AutoCAD, and we'll call this one layers. Save that. All right, now first thing, before we actually start working on layers, I'm going to pull up a drawing. So let's see here. Oh, and I'm just talking about Canvas being finicky, and it's totally freezing over here. Let's see, there we go. Spring, yes, that's what we want. And all right. And that should pop up here. There we go. Let's see. All right. So I'm going to show you a PDF file, and I want to talk about a few things on this file. So this is going to be a floor plan file that we look at. Let me file, save as, computer, desktop. Okay. So here's a floor plan we're looking at, okay? And this is a project from last semester. Before we even get into the topic of layers, okay, I want to talk about what layers are useful for. And there's several things that layers are actually useful for. So if you are, and you're going to need to look at the book, and I will bring up images on the screen here, so if you don't have it with you, that's okay. Let's see here. Let's get to our our layers here. Okay, so there are a few things that layers are going to be helpful with. They are going to help organize your AutoCAD drawing file, and they're going to do that by keeping track of all of the lines within your drawing. Okay, so layers help to organize the lines in your file, number one. Layers control visibility of lines and objects in your file as well. They also can control how lines are plotted, meaning are they dashed lines, are they solid lines, are they thick lines, are they thin lines, okay? So it's an organizational system. It's a way to be able to control how your lines are plotted, not only plotted with regard to thickness or thinness, but also pattern, right? If it's dashed or solid or whatever. Layers will also allow you to lock objects in your drawings, meaning you can take geometry or lines that you draw and you can make them non-editable, right? So we can lock them down. And then let's see, one other thing, and this is a visibility setting, but you can also, layers will help you make things non-printable, right? So you can place things on specific layers so that you can view them on the screen, but then they don't print, okay? So all of those different things are what we're going to use layers for, essentially. One of the main things that you're going to be using layers for specifically, is going to be controlling the graphics of your drawings, your objects, okay? When we look at this floor plan here, and I'm going to talk probably a little bit for the first few minutes of class, and I want to talk about the way drawings look, okay? This is a floor plan, and I'm not going to show the entire floor plan here, I guess, but I'm going to zoom out just a little bit here. Yep. Where did I get it? It's an old project.
Okay, so we shouldn't do that floor plan.
What's that? Oh, nope. This is just something that I had that we're going to view. So, AutoCAD drawings, right? We use AutoCAD drawings to draw things that are then printed out and given to a contractor and they're built, right? So when we're drawing things in AutoCAD, I think one thing you want to remember is that we're not just drawing lines on a page. You're drawing objects that represent things that are going to actually be built in the real world, right? And so number one, your AutoCAD drawings need to be precise. They need to be drawn to real world scale. And then kind of the third thing you want to think about is your drawings really need to be readable, right? So the idea behind a set of drawings is that when somebody looks at them, you want to be able to read them like a book, right? So when you pick up a book, you look at the page, you turn the page, right? And you read from left to right, and you start at the top line and you go down to the bottom, right? You know that there's punctuation. You know that what punctuation means. You generally know the format of when you're reading a document, right? And drawings, although you read them in a different way, should be no different, okay? So the first thing I want to point out here is that you're going to notice that some of the lines in this floor plan are thicker than others, right? So the outlines on some of these columns and these walls, they're a lot thicker actually than like the lines on this closet, right? Or maybe this inner line on this tub, or this line is very thick and black, and this line it's pretty thick, but it's gray tone, okay? So the way that we're going to read a set of drawings is graphically. And the way we're graphically going to read a set of drawings is by how thick the line weights are, right? A line weight, if you want to compare this maybe to hand drafting, and even if have any of you hand drafted? Oh my gosh, the first...
Oh, sorry.
Oh, Emma, you ruined it, right?
I'm a carpenter.
Okay, there you go.
My head, yes.
Just a little, okay. So fewer people are hand drafting, of course, right? I was going to say, oh my gosh, the first class where nobody's ever hand drafted. That's kind of an amazing thing. It's an evolution, right? But the idea when you hand draft, right, you control your line weights or the thickness of your lines with a pencil. So when you draw thick lines, you get out a big thick pencil, right, and you draw thick heavy lines. And when you want to draw thin lines, you take that pencil, the thick pencil, you put it away, you bring out a thinner pencil, you sharpen it, and you use that thinner pencil to draw thinner line weights, okay? Some pencils create thicker and heavier lines, and some create very thin and very light lines, right? So that's how when you were hand drafting, you could control what are called your line weights with pencils, right? And the term line weight is the thickness or the thinness of a line, okay? So when I look at these drawings, for example, the outline of these architectural elements like columns and walls, those have the heaviest pen weight. They're very thick black line, okay? Some of the secondary type architectural elements like the windows and the doors, they have a thinner line weight than the columns and the walls. And this one is not quite as evident, but I would say that even a grade down would be things like appliances. So we have very important architectural elements like walls and structural elements. Those are very important, and they're given a very high priority, and they're a thick pen weight. Then we have secondary architectural elements like doors and windows, right? They're still important, but they're less important than walls and structure. So they're given kind of a medium pen weight, okay? And then we have tertiary architectural elements that are things like furniture, right? Appliances, countertops, millwork, right? So the building could essentially exist without those elements. So those are given a light pen weight. So we have heavy, medium, and light pen weights. And then we have this fourth category of pen weights, which are going to be things like floor patterns, right? Which are called hatches or a poche. And so we have the heavy, medium, light, and then we have the gray tones, which are going to be the floor patterns, okay? Now, I think you're maybe hopefully getting the gist of this and then we have annotation, which are kind of a medium pen weight, but we'll come back to that. I think you're kind of getting hopefully the gist of this, where very important architectural elements like walls and structure, those are going to be your heaviest pen weights, okay? Medium pen weight will be secondary architectural elements like doors and windows. The third most important architectural elements will be things like appliances and millwork and plumbing fixtures, right? Those are going to be a light pen weight. And then we have a fourth category of pen weights, which are going to be shading, right? So things like hatches on the floors indicating floor tiles, or wall hatches that are solid like this, okay? So when we read a set of drawings, that's how we're graphically going to read it, right? When you look at this set of drawings, that thick black line immediately indicates structure or important architectural elements. We see a secondary element, right? My eye moves over to here and I think, oh, that's an opening. Number one, the symbol indicates it, but then the pen weight, it's not a thick, heavy line weight like the wall, so I know it's separate from the wall. It's a different category of something, right? So I have, I'm reading the walls, I'm reading the windows, right? I'm reading the appliances and the millwork. And then actually I'm kind of reading this dashed line, okay, in the closet, which will, in this case, it looks like it's indicating, the hanging bar, the rod in the closet, okay? And then my eye then goes to the flooring, which is it's a gray tone and it's, it's a less important pen weight. So that's graphically how I'm going to read a set of drawings. Yep.
Are you not a fan of leaders?
Leaders?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a fan of leaders. Is that, why are you asking that?
There's no leaders.
Like this? Or
Oh, no, the leaders for the windows.
leaders for the windows? Like, there's a tag.
None of the tags there, but
Oh, I'm just wondering, what do you mean?
I'm not like the vertical leader that typically goes to the bottom. Everybody does their own thing differently.
A vertical leader.
The leaders for your room tagging and for your railing columns, but
So like you're saying, you would call it out as a window.
yeah.
Is that what you're saying?
Call out.
Essentially. Yeah. So I think when you're doing something, this is, above and beyond, but I would say that normally if you have a tag that says 24, right, you're going to go to the window schedule and look at that and see what window number 24 is, right? Then there's this maybe your school of thought where you're like, hey, I don't want to call it out with a tag like that because the type of projects I do don't require that type of annotation. So we're going to call it out with a leader, right? And say, this is a, 24 by 24 inch window, whatever, 36 inches off the ground, right? And then there's a third way of doing it where instead of a tag that's called out with a number, you could just do a string of text above it that says, it's a 3030 with a 36 inch sill or whatever. Yep.
Yeah, just I got out of Kevin's class and he's so anal about the weirdest stuff.
Huh.
On his final, and it's just super weird. Like your 22 is sideways versus your 23.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
He's like, oh, come on, man.
This is, I would actually probably look at that and say the same thing. Like, this is a student project. I stole it, right? So I'm just showing it to you. But yeah. That's funny. No, you're good. It's good. It's good to talk about, right? I think it's a good topic to talk about, especially in this setting where we have a lot of different type of professions, right? Because there are a lot of different ways of doing things. And you might think, hey, this is the right way, but somebody else might think they do a different type of project or, and so they're like, hey, no, this is the way we're going to do it. Yeah. All right. So hopefully, does anybody have any questions on how the idea of being able to read a set of plans with regard to line weight, right? The other thing I want to talk about with regard to reading a set of plans is how we're viewing these drawings, okay? And what I mean by that is when I look at a floor plan, I am not viewing the floor plan from like 7 feet above the floor, right? the definition of a floor plan is essentially taking a building, right, an enclosed architectural space, and cutting it horizontally at a 3 to 4 foot height, right? And anything that you cut, you're going to see in that floor plan, okay? So this floor plan, the cut, if we were to take, we'll look at this room specifically. If we were to cut the top of this building off at a 3 to 4 foot range, right? The type of things that we would see would be, at the cut line, we'd see the walls being cut, we'd see the windows being cut, we'd see the doors being cut, right? Those really important architectural elements, okay? Those architectural elements, the cut line, will cut those important pieces, and those important pieces are given a heavy line weight, right? As I go from that 3 foot tall cut and I look down, I'm also going to see those elements, right? And in my field of vision, the things that are cut are going to be the heaviest pen weight, and of course they have the most importance. And the things below that are going to have lesser pen weights, lighter pen weights, and show lesser importance, right? So in this room, the doors, the walls, the windows, all very important architectural elements, okay? When I look down below the 3 foot cut line, I'm going to see furniture next, right? So that might have a medium pen weight, lightish pen weight in this case. And then I look down to the floor and I see carpet tile, right? So we'd have a carpet tile pattern on the floor, and that would have the lightest pen weight of all of ours, okay? So when we're looking at a set of drawings, that's how we read them. This is how, so when you're drawing a floor plan or a set of drawings, right, the methodology behind creating a floor plan is you cut a building at a 3 to 4 foot range and you draw everything from the cut below, right, assigning it an appropriate pen weight, okay? And I guess one more rule that I want to talk about is maybe, I'm going to show you a general way of going about assigning pen weights, okay? I'm going to show you how to create a thick pen weight in AutoCAD. Okay, I'm going to show you how to create a thin pen weight in AutoCAD. And I'm going to show you the general standards that we follow. So in architecture, we have what's called the AIA layer naming convention. Super nerdy, right? And so I'm going to talk about all of those things. But I also want to say kind of up front that as long as I see a gradation in your drawings, right? Heavy, medium, thin, fine. As long as I see those gradients, I'm not going to be super critical about it. Because more important than maybe, I like red for my heaviest pen weight, but you maybe like yellow for your heaviest pen weight, right? More important than you like red and I like yellow, or whatever I said in the first place, right? Is that you have a heavy, a medium, and a light pen weight, and you understand why you're assigning, certain elements those pen weights, okay? So this is the reasoning behind why we use pen weights and layers, and let me show you now how we're going to create layers, okay? Any questions on any of this so far? Okay. All right. So first thing, again, this book is a little bit outdated, so the graphics look slightly different than what we see on our screen in AutoCAD, but we do have, and this book, let me remind everybody one more time. I know it's easy to kind of forget where things are located. Let me go back to my, bless you, assignment here. Okay, so if we go to AutoCAD and you go to assignments, that course manual that I'm referencing is right here. So under drawing assignments, download course manual here, you can find that PDF booklet so that you can look at it. So it's right there. All right. And all of the layer settings that we're going to talk about, they're located here as well. So we'll get into that. All right. So I think what we'll do today is we'll talk about layers. I want to go over the from command, offset, and then I think next time we meet, we'll talk about creating a drawing template, and we'll talk about naming layers. So that's going to be kind of how we're going to split this topic in half, okay? All right, so AIA CAD layers. The first thing I guess I want to show you is how we are going to access our layers, all right? And if we're in the AutoCAD interface in model space here, on the ribbon, you're going to see a little tool palette called layers. And this is where you're going to manage all of the properties of layers in AutoCAD. You're going to create things, you're going to turn things on and off, you're going to assign pen weights, bless you, and all that good stuff, okay? So if I click on layer properties right here, the layer dialog box pops up and it looks like this. And by default, when you open up a blank AutoCAD drawing, you're only going to have 2 default layers in that layer dialog box. You're going to have layer 0 and you're going to have def points. Okay, and those are system layers that are always generated and that in general we're not going to use for drawing. Okay, they have a purpose in AutoCAD. The purpose of layer 0 is for creating blocks, which we don't know how to do yet. And def points, it's a non-printable layer that is used for dimensions, essentially. And so we're going to kind of leave those 2 things alone for now. But do know that they are in there, and so you will see them, okay? All right, so let's talk about this layer dialog box, all right? The first thing I want to show you is that this is kind of like the big layer dialog box, right? It has all of the settings available in it, and it's a tool palette. So I can click on this auto hide and it hides. I can click on show and it shows. And I can also take this and kind of drag it over to the side and dock it if I want to. I like to preserve my real estate on my screen. And so most of the time I kind of keep it like this, and if I don't need it, I'll turn it off, right? Or I'll even just click on the close X and get rid of it. But this contains all of the properties for layering. Okay, I can still come over here and move my drawing back and forth, right? So I can come over here, click, do things, come over here, click, and do things. I also want to show you that on the layer tool palette, we have sort of a shortened version of the layer dialog box. So we have a drop down right here, click, and I can drop down and I can see the layers that I have in this layer dialog box as well. Okay, I can also access a lot of the functions of these layers in this shortened version. Okay, I'm going to hit escape to get out of that. I have the on-off buttons, which I also, let me open mine a little bit more here. There was a really weird thing happening with my AutoCAD layer dialog box for a long time on my laptop. And I don't know if any of you will run into this, but all of my icons, either number one, were not visible. So I knew it was there, and if I clicked there, it would initiate, but it was looking really weird. Or they were tiny. They were so microscopic that I couldn't read them. And if anybody has that happening, it was a graphic card issue. There was something with my graphic card that was making it do that. All right, so I'm just going to open these up just a little bit so I can see all of these wonderful settings. Okay, so I have my on-off and I have my on-off. And I have my unisolate and my isolate. I don't have that down here. I have my freeze and my thaw right here. I have my lock and unlock right here. I have my make current and my match layer. Okay, so I do have some different layer properties right there. And then I have a little drop down here, which I'm not really going to worry about too much just yet. Okay, I'm going to escape to get out of that. All right, so let's talk about some of these different settings in here, and I'll talk about how layers help us as I move through all of these different functions. Okay, I guess maybe the first thing I want to say is that, and maybe the biggest feature of layers are that they help you organize your drawing elements in AutoCAD. All right, so what I mean by that is that when I assign a layer to an object, I'm going to do it by architectural element. Okay, and what that means is that in AutoCAD, all of the walls go on one layer, all of the windows go on another layer, all of the appliances go on a layer, all the furniture goes on a layer, all of the flooring hatch goes on a layer. Okay, so I'm going to create layers for every object or architectural element in AutoCAD, which is a lot, right? We'll have a lot of layers, especially when you're working professionally. And I'm going to assign similar layers or similar objects in AutoCAD, architectural elements, to the same layer, right? So what that does for me is if I have a layer called walls, right? And I put all of the walls on that layer. When I don't want to see the walls, I can turn them on or off. If I want to isolate just the wall layer and look at just the walls, I can do that because they're all on the same layer, and that layer allows me that control, okay? So the first thing, layers organize your drawings, all right? And what that means is we're going to put similar architectural elements on the same layer, okay? So let's get to that, I guess, and let's create some layers, all right? So we have a few settings that I kind of talked about already. We have the on-off, freeze-thaw, lock-unlock. We have this plot, non-plot option here that we don't have up here. We have a color right here, which is going to be associated with our line weights, thick or thin line weights. And then I have the type of line type. Is it a continuous line type? Is it a hidden line type? Is it dashed? Is it a property line, type layer or a line weight? I have some buttons up here. If I just hover over this, I have new layer. I have new layer, and this is freezing in viewports, which we're not going to worry about. I have delete layer, and then I have set current. Okay. So if I click on new layer, click, a new layer pops up. All right, and it is acting like it wants me to name it. So I'm going to name it. I'm going to call this wall. Enter. All right, so I made that pretty easy. We're going to do some generic type naming today just so that you understand, and then when we meet again on Monday, we're going to talk about how you should actually name your layers. So I just created a new layer, and one thing I want to tell you about layers. When you create a brand new layer, it creates a copy of the previous layer that you generated. So we don't really have a generated layer, so this one kind of kicked out some default function or default settings, like it's a white layer, it's continuous, it's non-printable right now. But if I were to create another layer after this and I had altered these settings, it would copy, the next layer would copy those settings. Okay, so it would copy the color of the layer, it would copy the visibility of it, and it would copy whether or not it prints. And I like to say that because, let me just do this. Let me show you some magic here, right? Click, 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 click. It's kind of a problem when you have set one layer to not print, and then you copy it 18 times, and you're drawing with those layers and none of them are set to print, and you're new at AutoCAD and you don't realize that you've done that, and you draw for hours and hours, right? And you create a drawing and then you go to print and all of a sudden nothing shows up on your page, right? So I like to point that out because it's like the #1 mistake that beginning students make, right? They come to me panicked like, hey, I've got my assignment done, but I can't print it. Nothing is showing up. It's on model space. I can't see it. And the #1 thing I say is it on a printable layer? And the answer is always, yeah, it is. And then I look at their drawing and no, it's not, right? So I would say that this is probably one of the biggest mistakes that beginning students make, okay? And it's easy to make because you just hit new layer. Sometimes your layer dialog box is shortened, like because you don't want to see the whole thing and you don't realize you're making layers that are non-printable, okay? All right, but it's easy enough remedied, and I'm going to hit undo, Control Z, and get rid of those real quick. So I click on new layer and I'm going to type wall and hit enter. All right. Now some of these properties, let's talk about these properties. We have an on and off function. Now let me just clarify. I created a new layer, and these layers are meant to be, #1, put objects on. So if I have objects that are already drawn, I can take an object in AutoCAD and I can assign it after the fact to a layer. But I can also make that layer what we call current and use it to draw objects with, okay? So I've created a new layer. If I click on that layer and highlight it, I can come up here and click on make current. Click, and I get a little green check mark next to it, right? And what that means is that this layer is current. That also means that I see it up here in my sort of shortened version of the layer dialog box. And that means that if I click on line, click, and I start drawing objects over here in AutoCAD, right? Escape, escape. That these lines that I just drew, because this layer was current, they are on that layer. All right, so if I click on one of those objects I just drew, I can look up here in this layer dialog box and it says wall. If I hit escape, I clear that out and I click on one that I haven't drawn, you see it shows me layer 0 because these have been drawn incorrectly on layer 0. Okay. All right, so this piece of geometry that I just generated, it's on the wall layer, and the wall layer is current, so anything I draw right now is on the wall layer. The wall layer right now is turned on. Okay, if I click on this little light bulb, it turns it off, and visibly I can't see it. Okay, and the little light bulb dims, right? And you'll see the little light bulb dimmed up here as well. It's very sad, right? If I click on that light bulb again, it pops back up, right? So this is very helpful when maybe you're drawing a floor plan or something and you have design options where, you know, on one of your floor plans you have 2 bathrooms and the client wants to see 1 bathroom. So you could turn 1 bathroom on or off or whatever, right? Control visibility and really show them what you want to be seen. Now I'm going to show you this freeze thaw before I talk about the on off and freeze thaw option. And I need to create another layer before I do this, so don't worry too much about this just yet. But if I click on the freeze, it's a little sunshine, it's thawed, and that means that the objects on that layer are visible. I'm going to click on that, and it turns to a snowflake, and it turns off, right? For the life of me, I should Google it and see if I can find an answer. But for the life of me, I don't really understand why they have both of these functionalities, okay? Let me tell you the difference between the two. So freeze thaw, I can turn things on and off, right? These two functions are identical in every way except for one thing. When I have my layer frozen, meaning it's not showing, okay? When I go and if I want to click and make this layer current, it says, hey, you can't do that. And what that means is that AutoCAD won't let me draw on a layer that is not visible, right? That is not frozen. Or that is frozen, right? So if a layer is not able to be seen on the screen, the freeze thaw function won't let me draw on it, which makes complete sense. Why would I want to be drawing blindly on the screen, right? If I go back to my wall layer, I unthaw that, right? So it's visible right there. If I go back to my wall layer and I turn it off with the light bulb, I can turn it off. But then, without thinking, because I'm just drawing in AutoCAD, right, I click on the line tool and I start drawing a few things across the screen. And by the time I realize it, I'm like, hey, wait, what's wrong? That's really weird. I don't know what's happening, right? I go to my next layer and I start drawing again. I think, oh, there's my line tool again, right? But what actually happened was because I used the on-off function instead of the freeze-thaw, AutoCAD allowed me to draw all these invisible lines all over the screen, right? So I just don't understand why you would want to be drawing blindly, essentially, is maybe my point, right? Because I think if you're doing it, you're doing it mistakenly, because we're not going to be drawing blindly, right? Hopefully not. I think the generally accepted way of turning things visibly, you know, on and off so we can see them or we cannot see them is going to be to use the freeze thaw function, right? Now, let me hit undo. We'll undo all of that. Ooh, it doesn't want to. There we go. Okay. So the generally accepted way of turning things visibly on and off in your drawings is going to be freeze thaw. However, when you're in industry, people will say, hey, turn that layer off. And it's confusing because you're thinking, well, I shouldn't be using on off. I should be using freeze thaw, right? And I do it, right? I will say, turn that layer off. And you're like, oh, should I use the actual off option? Or should I use the freeze thaw option, right? And from this point forward, I would say, even if I say turn that layer off or turn that layer on, I mean freeze it or thaw it, okay? We're not going to be using this functionality of on-off because it just doesn't really make any sense, right? We don't want to accidentally draw things that are not visible. And it may not seem like a big deal, right? But if you accidentally draw something and then you turn the layer back on and you have, 400 more columns in your drawing or representations of your columns than you thought, and your project goes out to the contractor and they're like, hey, there were supposed to be all these random columns all over the place. And you're like, no, those weren't supposed to be there, right? They were supposed to be turned off in the AutoCAD drawing, right? You guys get the point. Mistakes can really easily happen when you do that kind of thing, and we don't want that to happen, right? So don't use this functionality, use the freeze thaw option, okay? So freeze and thaw will allow you to turn, your lines visibly on and off. But because it won't allow you to draw on a layer that is not visible, you can't come in and freeze a layer that is current, because a current layer assumes that you're going to be drawing on it, right? So in order for you to visibly, see, and I say it, turn a layer off, and I mean freeze it, you have to have another layer to go to make current, to then turn this one non-visible, right? Freeze it. Okay. Any questions on any of that? It's kind of odd, right? You look like you're already full of information. All right. We have our lock functionality here, where if I click on this little lock, it locks that layer, right? And if you look at it visibly on the screen right here, if I move my cursor over it, a little lock appears, right? Meaning, hey, I'm not editable. And when I mean not editable, I mean that entire layer is not editable. So if you have all of your walls on this wall layer, which is appropriate, and you lock it, nobody can go in and move them or alter them or delete them accidentally or stretch them and make them bigger or smaller, right? So those elements will remain unchanged on your screen, even if somebody tries to or accidentally tries to alter them, okay? So I can come over here, I can select this object, and it's locked, and I can hit delete, and nothing happens, okay? So the lock functionality will make your objects non-editable. Yep?
When I add a new layer, mine doesn't show up under the plot with the red X. Or the,
You don't get this looking like that?
is that, I mean, I guess
That's good. Yeah. I don't actually, I was looking, when mine did that, I was like, I wonder why it did that.
but
So,
when you, if it did show up, do you know how to unlock it?
yeah. So you just click on it, and it makes it printable. Pretty easy. Yep. So that's our next one, right? We can unlock it. We can make our lines printable or non-printable, right? So to give you a little preview of this, with a printable line here, I'm just going to do a quick little print. And we're going to choose a window here. There we go. Center the plot, preview. Right? That's what my lines look like when I print them. But if I put them on a non-printable layer, I've done nothing but change that little setting. I'm going to do a quick print preview again and preview that object, and it's gone, right? So I can see I understand the panic when this happens. Trust me. I've been there, right? But that's something that happens quite frequently.
Would that be useful if somebody's like, I want to see the house, but just like with not any of the furnishings
Right.
and stuff, and then you're just like, let's hide all those and print out. Okay.
Yep, exactly. Okay, so we have our print, non-printable. This functionality is going to be useful for a printing option that we'll talk about in a week or two, right? Then we have our color, okay? The color is what assigns a pen weight or a line weight to your lines. These colors make your lines thick or thin, all right? And I just want to, I'll let you know, we have our own kind of pen weight system within the college, right? Within this class. But it is similar, almost identical to industry, right? There's usually two kind of accepted ways of drawing lines in AutoCAD. There is the way that I've always done it, and that all the offices I've worked at have done it. And then there's Naima's way, right? Do you know Naima? Do you guys know Naima? She's one of our other instructors, right? So she worked at an office called MJSA. Does anybody know MJSA? Small architecture firm over on Pierpont in downtown. And they do a lot of really great small design projects. And MJSA, they do everything opposite of standard, right? So in practice, the red pen weight is the heaviest pen weight. And I'm going to show you something in the book in a second. But when I click on the colors, right, the red is the heaviest pen weight. That's pen number 1, right? If I hover over it, I see index color 1, and it's red, okay? And our color white or magenta is going to be our thinnest pen weights. So we have heavy, we have kind of medium, 3 and 4, and we have light, which will be 6 and 7, okay? And this is generally the accepted way of doing things, again, except for Naima. So she, in her working, her heaviest pen weight was magenta, and her thinnest pen weight was red, right? So you'll see one of those two iterations of how pen weights work in industry, essentially. I would say that by and far, just from the offices I've worked in, it's always been red is the heaviest and magenta is the thinnest, right? So they're kind of the exception to the rule as far as their pen weights maybe, but you might see one of the two iterations, okay? But in our class, red is going to be the heaviest pen weight, and magenta, white, gray, these grays are going to be the thinnest pen weights, all right? We're going to, even though it's tempting because there's so many wonderful colors up here, right? We're going to stay away from these colors up here for now, right? And I'll talk about why probably next time we meet. But the colors that we assign to our geometry on our screen, we're going to use index colors 1 through 9. And then we're going to use these colors down here, 250 to 254, and those are gray tones, okay? So on this assignment that we looked at, ooh, if I get it over here, come on, right? This heaviest, no, what is happening? Okay, the heaviest pen weight, this is going to be the red color, number 1, right? And our thinnest pen weight, like the washer and dryer, will be magenta. And then our gray tone is going to be that flooring. So we see that it is a line, but it's grayed out instead of that true black, right? Those are going to be those gray tone colors. So red color number 1 is the heaviest. We have the mediums in the middle here, and then we have the thin pen weights here and our gray tones down here. And we're going to stick to those colors, okay? Now, I'm going to show you in the book how you can go about assigning colors to your layers, right? But again, I just also want to say that if you're thinking about layers and I see that thought in your assignments, I'm okay with that, right? So you may say that, hey, red is the thickest pen weight, but you know, we all get sort of finicky when we start doing AutoCAD and drawing. Red is too heavy, right? And people have really adamant stances on this, which is even more funny, right? But red is too heavy. We don't like to use red for our heaviest pen weights, okay? That's great. Use yellow, right? Yellow can be your heaviest pen weight. So then I want to see 2 or 3 steps to your medium pen weight. And then I want to see 2 or 3 steps down for your light pen weight, right? So if red is our heaviest pen weight, then I want to see probably green or cyan for my medium pen weight. And if cyan is my medium pen weight, then I want to see magenta or white as my thin pen weight. Right? So I want to see a couple steps between pen weights so that your drawings, ooh, why is this so hard to pull over? There we go. So that I see a step between the pen weights on your drawings when they're printed, okay? So that's kind of what I'm looking for. And I think in industry, that's what people are going to be looking for as well, right? Offices have standards. They may say red, you have to use red for your heavy, or you have to use magenta for your light. Great. If they tell you that, great. If they're kind of loosey-goosey and they say, you know, here's a heavy, we want this light, you can kind of make your own judgment call. Okay, so to assign a color to a layer, right? And if you think about it, a wall, right, is going to be one of the heaviest pen weights because it's, number 1, one of the most important architectural elements in a building, okay? It's a structure. And as you cut the floor plate in your floor plan, you're cutting walls, right? So the cuts and the most important architectural elements will have the heaviest pen weight. So I'm going to click on red and I'm going to hit OK. All right. By doing that, you see that my line work turned red, right? When I make a change to a layer, anything on that layer is altered. Okay, so whether it is the visibility of the prints, whether it's locking it or turning it on or off, right, using freeze thaw, when I have some things on a layer, everything that I change about that layer affects all the geometry on that layer. All right. Now this geometry I drew on the wall layer, right? This geometry over here is still on layer 0, even though we have some walls and doors and windows and different things. So, you know, I think the best method of assigning a layer is to draw the layer, you know, or draw the geometry with the layer correctly, right? But do we do that? No, because we get drawing and we are on the wrong layer and we think, well, let's just finish drawing and then I can change the layer, whatever, right? I'm guilty of that myself. So there is a pretty easy way of, you know, we can draw things on the correct layer in the first place. That's the best practice. But if we don't do this, there is a way to take objects and assign them a layer after the fact, okay? So if I grab, and I'm going to select some layers, okay? I can come up here. I can use this drop down when these objects are selected. Use the drop down, change it to wall layer, hit escape, and now those objects have that layer assigned to them. All right, so I can go through and I can pick objects and I can assign a layer after the fact, even though probably best practices is to draw them correctly in the first place.
Can you show us that one more time?
Yeah, so I'm going to zoom in. I'm just going to grab some of these objects, right? I'm using a selection window. I'm using a blue one to grab that little guy. I come up when they're selected, drop down, pick the layer I want, escape, escape, and it's assigned. And when I hit escape now, and I've cleared out of the command and I select that layer or that object, the layer is showing the wall layer. Okay. Now if I were to come into my layer dialog box and change the color from red to magenta and hit OK, all of those objects on that layer will change, right? So it's nice to, not only are the layers organized, like I can turn them on and off, I can assign things to them universally, right? So I don't have to go through and change all the colors of all the wall elements, right? I don't have to go pick them all out and change the colors one by one. I can universally make the changes. All right, so when I say layers organized drawings, right, I mean that I assign architectural elements that are similar in nature, walls, doors, windows, to a layer with that name. So the wall layer, I put the walls on that layer, okay? So that's the organizational part. Layers control visibility, right? So if I come in here and I freeze that layer, all of the layers on, or all of the objects on those layers turn off, right? I can't see them. So I can control visibility of things. I can lock things down. I can make them safe from editing, right? And if I do this per layer, then everything on that layer gets locked down. I can change my printing status. So if I want to be able to have these non-printable, I can check the little non-printable, turn that back on. I would say though, by and far, if I, for example, didn't want a client to view the furniture on my floor plan, right, I probably wouldn't change the print status. I would likely go in and freeze that layer before I change the print status, because the print status, even if your objects are viewed on the screen, they won't print, right? But if I freeze something, I can't see it, so I know that there's something missing from the drawing, right? So that when you're in a rush and you have a deadline and you're going to print your drawings, you're like, oh, I can see the furniture, it's there, and you go and you print hundreds of copies of drawings that cost $4,000 and nothing is printing. You're like, oh, well, it was on the screen, right? So I'm more likely to freeze and thaw things if I don't want to show a client, more so than making them non-printable, so that you mistakenly create PDFs or drawings that are things are missing, essentially. Okay. All right, so we have the layer named. We've talked about all of these different settings. Let me show you how to control the line type. So if I click on this continuous setting right here, line type, I get some different types of lines. Yep.
So you briefly went over how to adjust the window. Like I've been clicking on it a little bit, trying to get it to the left, or you know what I mean, but it's still just stuck right close to the ribbon.
Oh, this thing?
Yeah.
Oh.
Itself, the view.
Is it like that?
No, it's horizontal.
Oh, yours is like that.
Yeah.
Okay, so what you'll want to do is you'll want to come up here and click and hold, or let's try and, right there. You got a little tab right here. Click and hold it, drag it down into the center of your screen. Let go. No? I think you've just docked it at the top there. Oh, okay, so grab right over here. In that tab area. There you go, drag it over. Let go. If you're going to want to attach, I was just, you must have been reading my mind. Thank you.
There you go.
Thank you. How's it going?
Pretty good.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Good.
So, working full time and doing commercial project out the wazoo.
Commercial ones?
Yeah.
Nice. Do you guys know Justin?
Probably not.
Okay. These are all AutoCAD. Justin works for,
Mendenhall Architecture and Design.
yeah,
So.
it's good. You got
Yeah.
that job
January.
in January?
Mhm.
That's nice.
So.
It's going well then.
Yeah, pretty good. So.
Okay. It's
Cool.
good to see you.
Yes, you do.
All right. Okay. All right, so this thing is going to want to like attach to anything that it touches. It wants to dock, right? So you'll have to pull it out, and it's with this little tab area, and drag it to wherever you want it to go. And then you can kind of resize it, right, to whatever you want it to be. Okay. All right, so let's talk about our line type here. I'm going to click on my line type, and it brings up select line type. Okay, and I only see the continuous line type, so I have to load other line types to be able to use them. And at first I thought this was kind of annoying, but on the other hand, this is almost like a favorites menu, right? I don't want all of the line types showing up here. I just kind of want to view the favorite ones that I use, so it kind of makes sense. So I'm going to click on load, and the line weights that I'm going to use are going to be likely starting from batting. And I would say you could go all the way, probably down to the bottom. We're going to maybe not use a ton of these down here. But you don't want to use these ACAD ISO line weights, okay? They don't look as good as these, the ones that are named without the ISO in front of them. So I'm going to click, for example, dashed. Click. And I'm going to hit OK. And by doing that, I just loaded that dashed line type into my project. All right, now I want to use it. So I'm going to click on it, and I'm going to hit OK. And now you see my line is dashed, right? So I've assigned a dashed line type to that layer. If I want to go back to a continuous line weight without any of those dashes, I'm going to click on dashed. I'm going to click on continuous, hit OK, and it goes back to the continuous line type. Easy, right? Okay, so there are a lot of different line types that you can choose from, right? So depending on what profession you're in, so there's center, you know, and you get a preview of these that are going to indicate property lines and easements, and you know, the dash lines usually indicate something overhead or below the floor that is implied. Fence lines, right? All these great things, right? Oop, I'm going to hit escape and get out of there. Okay. So that's how we're going to change our line weight. Now, kind of one of the most important yet confusing topics, right? You thought this was complicated, right? Just wait. Is the idea of making these lines actually print with a thickness, all right? And it's a little bit... this is a confusing topic until you somewhat understand layers in AutoCAD a little bit more. But the way that this system works, and I think maybe you'll find this after I say it, is that AutoCAD is a very generic type software, right? So when you open it, there are no settings in it really, right? But you can customize it to what you want it to be, right? So civil engineers can use it, contractors can use it, architects can use it, electrical, mechanical, structural engineers can use it. It has a very broad audience, right? And it's very easy to use with a very broad audience because it's so customizable, okay? Now, with that said, because it has such a broad audience and because so many people are using it to do different tasks, right? And I'm specifically talking about lines and line weights, colors, and objects in AutoCAD. Even the printing of the line weights is very generic, okay? And what I mean by that is when I assign a color to a layer and then my lines turn that color, that doesn't mean anything to AutoCAD, all right? It means that line is magenta. But AutoCAD doesn't necessarily associate a thin pen weight with that, right? Because so many different professions are using this, it wants you to tell it what magenta means, right? So it remains very generic so that you can customize it for whatever, you know, you're doing with your business. So magenta just means, it means a color to AutoCAD, all right? We have to input instruction on what magenta actually means in order for AutoCAD to print it with a thin pen weight or a thick pen weight or whatever you have it defined as, Okay, so I'm gonna just close up my little layer dialog box here. And I don't know, the next thing that I'm just about to show you, other than this, is like maybe tied as number one thing that people either mistake or forget in AutoCAD. And it has to do with what's called a pen file and loading our pen files. Okay, so I'm going to go to CAD Common here. I'm going to go to this PC. I'm going to go to CAD Common and go to Arch 1310 drawings, and you're going to see a file here, and it's called laserjet.ctb. Okay, and if I double click on it, click, nothing happens. I get, oh, here it is. I get this dialog box that pops up. Okay, and so you can't really use it by double clicking on it and opening it. All right, this is a file that when I load it into AutoCAD, it tells AutoCAD what my colors mean, right? So, and this makes a lot of sense because, you know, in an architecture firm, you want your pen weights to be a specific way and that you want them to have a specific line type and to look a specific way. And in an engineering firm, you want your pen weights to look a specific way and to use specific colors and have them read properly, right? That's the idea that AutoCAD's very generic. You can customize it and you can use it the way you want and then give it instruction on what to do with what you've input into it, okay? So we're not going to learn how to create these CTB files, but I am going to show you how to take one that we've already, you know, defined in the architecture program here, to load it into AutoCAD, right? And then how to use it to define your pen weights, okay? So I'm going to right click on this file and copy it. This is something that I'm going to say should, because in this lab, I should always say should, because so many people use these computers that who knows what goes on with them, right? But at home or in your laptop, when you load this one time, it will stay forever until you format your laptop, okay? So this is a system setting where you load this pen file one time and it should, here in the lab, stay. At home, it will stay forever, okay? Now, we're going to load it and we're going to use it when we print. So, and we're not going to get to printing quite yet, but I want to bring this topic up so you understand how things are working. So I'm going to right click and I'm going to copy. I'm going to go back to AutoCAD and I'm going to go up to File, Plot Style Manager. I should like mark this topic in the YouTube video because you guys are going to fast forward to it. Yep.
I don't have that on my tech comments. I'm drawing.
Ours is just LaserJet.
Yeah, LaserJet.
I just have all of my 17 pages.
Oh, mine was in the middle. Mine was in that.
Oh, okay.
Like in the middle of the file.
It could be anywhere in that file structure. You could just look through there and find it. But it's laserjet.ctb. Did somebody accidentally cut it out of there just now? Let me.
No.
Okay, it's
Mine
there.
says LaserJet though. It doesn't say the dots.
Oh, that's okay.
LaserJet CTB.
Yeah.
It's an Adobe.
Yeah, no, it says CTB.
Yeah. Yep.
Same thing.
Sorry, on my personal machine here, I don't have file, I just have the ribbon that says home.
Okay.
How do I add that?
So if you go to this little drop down right here, you do show menu bar, and that will pop up.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Sorry. Trying to follow along.
Nope, you're good. Like I said, I think the biggest problem is when things don't quite look the same, right? You're like, it's supposed to be there. Where is it? Okay, so did everybody find the CTB file? So there's a couple of names you'll hear. You'll hear CTB file, you'll hear pen file, you'll hear line weight file. So all of those things mean the same thing. It means that little CTB file that we're copying, okay? Now, you won't have this at home. So if you're using a laptop, you need to email this file to yourself so you have it, okay? Because when we start printing, if you don't use it, I will take points off of your assignments. So, and it's so easy to use that it's ridiculous, right? So make sure that you take this with you and that you input it into your home computers. And if you're printing from somewhere else, that you use it, okay? And when I say printing, I mean if you're creating a PDF or physically printing, you're going to want to use it, okay? All right. So I'm going to go to File. I'm going to go down to Plot Style Manager. And I'm going to, in here, you see there are some out-of-the-box CTB files. These are just in AutoCAD. I'm going to right-click and I'm going to paste. And I'm going to pop that LaserJet CTB file in there. The CTB file defines what our colors mean to us, right? So we'll say, you know, in the architecture lab, this LaserJet CTB file, it says that red is the thickest pen weight, that magenta and white are the thinnest pen weights, and those 250 to 254 are gray tones. Okay, that's what that means. That's what this little file is telling AutoCAD those colors mean, what they mean. Otherwise, when you go to print, those lines will be generically defined and they'll just all be one pen weight. Okay. All right. So let me show you. Oh, yep.
Could you go over that one more time?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm going to go, let me just cheat a little bit and delete it out of there. Cut. Yeah, we'll do that. I botched my, okay. So what we're going to do is you're going to go to this PC. You're going to go to CAD Common, click. We're going to go to Arch, 1310. We're going to go to Drawings, and your LaserJet CTB, and it might be anywhere in here, depending on how your file is sorted. You're going to right click on it, and you're going to copy it. Okay, and again, this isn't something that that you'll have at home, so you're going to have to email it to yourself or take it with you if you need it on your home computer. I'm going to pop back over to AutoCAD.
So if I I'm sorry, finish what
You're okay.
when you're done.
Okay, we're going to go up to File, and if your File menu is not showing, you're going to drop down and choose Show Menu Bar, right? You're going to go to File, Plot Style Manager, and you're going to right click and you're going to paste that in there. That's all you're going to do. We're going to close that out. What I just did is called loading your pen file, right? So now that file that defines what our colors mean in AutoCAD is there, okay? So now, and this is not something you're going to have to do for a little while, right? But when I go to print something now, the LaserJet CTB file shows up in my print dialog box. That's how we're going to use it. So I'm going to say, hey, I want to print a PDF. I want it to be on a letter-sized piece of paper. I want to do a window to define it. So we'll do this, right? And I want to make sure that those colors mean what I think they mean. So I'm going to choose LaserJet CTB, and I'm going to preview that. And now, right, I get, and it's slightly thicker because it's magenta, right? But it's slightly thicker now than that layer 0, which is the generic color, okay? If I happen to go into my layer dialog box now, and I change that from magenta to red, and I hit OK, all right, and I do that same print, now you see that pen file defines that as that thick pen weight, right? As opposed to if I had accidentally not loaded that and not used it, right? And I previewed my print, number 1, it would be red. Very bad, points off your assignments, right? If you create a PDF and it's colored, you've done something wrong, and you'll get points off, right? And the thing that you've done wrong is you have not chosen your CTB file, right? Grayscale or monochrome or whatever, right? We're not seeing any really definition. I'm seeing a slight graying, but that's not what we want to see happen. We want to see a thick pen weight with that red color, right? So that's what we're going to see happen if we don't use our CTB file when we print, okay? All right, what was your question, Sky? You got it? Okay. Yep.
When I'm trying to go to R1310, the file is not on there.
The 1310?
The LaserJet.
So if you go to, let's go again, this PC, CAD Common, Arch, 1310, right? Drawings. And it could be at the bottom too. Like, are you looking? Was it in the middle? Okay. It's that red CTB. let me drop it. I'll just make it easy. Let's just drop it right here. I'm going to paste it right here. So if you go to CAD Common Arch 1310, it should be right there. Did you see it there? It looks like you're trying to open it through AutoCAD. Are you trying to open it through AutoCAD? Yeah, you don't want to open it through AutoCAD. You just want to go to, you could type in, right, File, and you want to browse through Windows to find it. So the problem you're having is that AutoCAD won't open that format of file, so it's not showing, I bet. Do you see it? Probably now, I bet.
So,
There you go.
problem that I'm having with navigating the homework, the new homework that you just assigned,
Mm-hmm.
or just submitted, for the OSNAP circle, we did circle basketball.
Right.
When I'm in the Acrobat Reader, like I'll do a Control F to find and do like OSNAP or whatever.
Right.
Is there, and this might be too much to ask, but like on the actual assignments, is there any way that you can include like 1-34 through 1-48?
So here's the problem with that. Yeah, well, yes, I can.
Because it's just a lot of material to try to, you know what I mean?
Uh-huh.
I just want to get it done.
Right. So some of the books have different numbering. I hate to say that, but like the PDF is a little bit different than the printed book. So yes, I can start including like a range, and I think on some of the assignments I start doing that, but it's in that range. Like it might be before, slightly after it.
Gotcha.
Okay.
All right, I'll do that.
Yep.
Thank you.
Okay. So we have our LaserJet CTB, and you're gonna go to File. You're gonna go to Plot Style Manager, right? And you're gonna paste it in here. Okay. All right. So let's see here. Let me just make sure I don't forget anything. Looking in our book here. Okay.
And then you can just email that file to us.
Uh-huh. Yep. Yep. All right. Any questions on layers so far? Okay, so here's what we're going to do. We are going to, next time we meet, we're going to talk about how to properly name these layers, right? So according to AIA layer naming conventions. Great. For today, right, I want you, and for this assignment that I will assign, and for your basketball assignment, right, which we'll talk about in just a second, we are going to create layers that will work for us, right? But I want to create a few more, and I want to assign some lines, and we'll look at those. Okay. So I'm going to click on New Layer. Maybe we'll call this one Door. Enter. And Door is going to be a medium pen weight. I'm going to click on red here, and instead of it being red, I want to make it cyan. So I'm going to hit OK. Great. So now I have two layers. One is red, which is a thick pen weight, which I'm going to, then assign all of my walls that color, that layer. And then I have a door, which is going to be cyan, and it's going to be a medium color. Okay, pen weight. One thing I do want to bring your attention to in the book. All right, so hopefully you understand the idea that how layers help organize your geometry. You understand that layers also give a pen weight to your geometry. You understand that you can make your layers non-printable. You can change the visibility of them, right? You can assign a line type to them. You can create new ones, right? You can make layers current. I can see my current layer up here. I guess I should say that. My current layer right here is indicated right here. I can draw on a current layer and draw things the correct way the first time. And then I can also grab items, and I can, using the drop down here, I can change them after the fact, right? So there's a lot of things that I can do with layers, and hopefully you kind of understand that. We have some other settings that we're going to go through as well on layers. I think I'm going to continue some of those once we get into the naming, right? I'm going to split it in half. So we'll talk about how to match layers, how to make layer current using some of these settings up here. But I do want to show you something in the workbook with regards to layers. okay? And it has more to do with the pen weight, all right? The assignment, one of the assignments that you're going to be doing, let me go to assignment here.
What line weight did you want for the doors, for cyan?
Cyan is good. Yep, cyan is good for doors.
What was the line weight?
What's that?
What was the line weight?
The cyan?
Yeah.
What?
for the door?
It's going to be cyan.
It's preloaded if you download that
Right.
file.
Yeah, so the file will designate that that's a medium pen weight. But, sorry, I was just about to talk about that, actually. Yes. Are you asking what the actual dimension of that line weight is? Yes, let's talk about that. Good question, right? Wait, sorry, guys. I know we're going a little bit long. I'll try and wrap it up in the next, 15 minutes, I promise. What's that? Okay. I feel, especially at night, I'm always like, hold on, just a little longer, right? It's especially bad at the 8 o'clock class. You know, it hits 9:30, and people are dropping off like flies. So your assignment, let me just open this one up. Right, you're going to start with this file that we have on our screen, and you're going to create some layers in this assignment. You're going to give them a line weight, right? So a color, essentially. That's going to be kind of the workflow. But the way that this assignment actually is going to work is, I think this is the one. Hold on, let me remember. Nope, not that one. We'll talk about this stuff later. Hold on. I'm going to go through the workbook here. Okay. The way that this assignment is actually going to work is it's going to say, hey, I want you to create all of these layers, and I want you to assign pen weights after the fact, right? So line weights after the fact, heavy, medium, and light. So let me just say, hold off on this assignment until we meet next time, because I'm going to finish explaining the assignment. But this is getting into what is the exact kind of dimension of the pen weights, right? It's going to say, hey, you have some doors, and we're going to name these doors according to the AIA layer naming convention, but we're also going to assign a line weight, and that line weight's going to be 0.20 millimeters, right? You're like, okay, that makes sense. When you're hand drafting, we have a 0.20 millimeter lead that we use, and we use that pencil to create that pen weight, right? But you're thinking, hey, we talked about colors, right? We talked about colors, so what does this 0.20 millimeters mean, right? The colors actually do represent a dimensional line weight, right? So I'm using the terms heavy, medium, and light, which is generally how we talk about it in industry. Somebody doesn't, and honestly, never has anybody come up to me and said, hey, will you assign a 0.25 millimeter line weight to those stairs? Never, okay? They say, hey, will you, those stairs are a little dark. Could you go from, cyan to magenta, right? That's how we talk about it. But you do want to know or understand that the pen weights do mimic, a specific millimeter thickness, okay? So the idea behind this is, and I'm going to go to the very last page of this booklet. Let me go all the way to page 191. Nope. This one. So 187 out of 191, right? So this is like the third or fourth page from the very end. And I'm going to rotate it clockwise, okay? So this right here, okay, this is a line weight chart. And when you start a new job, and if you're working in AutoCAD, you will get one of these when you start a new job, right? Because an office will define what colors are thick and thin in their office, right? Again, generally accepted are these lines down here, pen 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, which are also up here, right? They're kind of put down at the bottom for convenience. But color 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, okay? This is the color number 1. Okay, if I go to AutoCAD and I click on red and I hover over red, color number 1, right? So they correlate. And when that color number 1 is drawn in AutoCAD, it's red. When it's printed, it is this thickness. And this thickness, if you were to measure it, I'm going to go back down here, is 0.7 millimeters. All right. Pen number 2 is color number 2, okay? That's yellow in AutoCAD. And when it's in AutoCAD, it's yellow, but when I print it, it looks like this, all right? Slightly thinner than pen number 1, and color pen number 2 is 0.5 millimeters, right? So that's the thickness, the actual millimeter thickness of those pen weights that AutoCAD assigns. And that CTB file, that pen file that you loaded, that defines it, right? So that pen file defines it. And those pen files, they can be defined per office, per whatever industry you're in, okay?
And that loaded in there is going to do that automatically.
Yes. So your job is just to use the correct pen weight or the color, right? Which is the pen weight essentially. So when you have an assignment and it says, let's see, where is that assignment? When you have an assignment, let's hope, nope, further down. And it says, hey, you have doors in your project, and this is what the layer is going to be called, and it's a 0.2 millimeter, right? You're thinking, oh, what is 0.2? How do I define that? Well, your job is just to make sure that 0.2, which at the end of your book is 0.2, hold on, 187. Is it number 5? Yep. For number 5 is 0.2 millimeters, right? So, and again, Jeff wrote these assignments, so I blame it on him. So he kind of is sending you on a wild goose chase, but the idea is that you're connecting that you have a color in AutoCAD, and that color is a line weight, and that line weight has a thickness, and that thickness then correlates to a number, which the number color coordinates to a color, right? So somebody could say use pen number 1, or use pen that is 0.2 millimeters, or red, and you would know that all 3 of those things are exactly the same, right? So kind of connects those ideas. So while it's super annoying, I feel like it's kind of genius at the same time, right? Which a lot of his assignments do. Okay. So now, if you're working through your basketball court assignment, which sounds like some of you are starting to do, and we have a little bit more knowledge now to help us draw that, right? And when we look at it, let's see, let's go to the basketball assignment. It says, zoom. Oh man, technology, right? Okay, it says create these layers. Left free throw area, right free throw area, center jump circle, border of court. Do not dimension the drawing, assign different colors to each layer, right? So you have 4 different layers that you're creating, and you're thinking, well, what colors do I need to create these with, right? And in my mind, I'm looking at this and I have to look at the drawing and graphically define it. I look at this outer boundary and I say, that's a pretty thick pen weight, right? It's thicker than this one, and then this one is thicker than that one, right? So in my mind, I'm thinking heavy, medium, light, right? And I'm thinking red, maybe like a cyan, and then magenta or white, okay? And I don't care if you're like, hey, I want to use yellow as my thickest pen weight, fine, right? Not a big deal. But I want to see some steps in between the pen weights. So I definitely want to see heavy, I want to see medium, and I want to see light. Okay, so that's what we're going to be looking for on the basketball court, okay? Now, Brian asked, hey, how do I, I've got these, what are these lines called? I don't even know what they're called. Somebody always knows what all the elements of the basketball court are in every class. They think I'm terrible for not knowing. I'm sure there's some name for this line. Anyway, so this line right here is 19 feet away from that center line, right? And it's 3 feet in length. So how do I create that line, right? There's a couple ways I can do it. And let's talk about that in AutoCAD, okay? And I'm going to kind of stop the topic. I'm going to stop the lecture on layers for right now. We'll come back to it next time because we have to talk about naming. We're going to talk a little bit about printing, right? So we'll continue with that next time. But I do want to talk about the basketball court and how you would go about drawing that, okay? Let's see here. So I'm going to open up a brand new AutoCAD file. File new. Oh, I'm just going to go to Start and click on Start Drawing. And I'm going to actually split my screen a little bit here, see if I can get my AutoCAD to live on the same side as my PDF. I want to be able to see it just a tiny bit. Oh my goodness, what happened there? Okay, and by doing what we're doing now, I'm going to go over the offset command and the from object snap. We'll talk about those too. So really, right, and I'll kind of actually do this assignment just a tiny bit as we're working through it. I guess maybe the first thing I want to do with this assignment is I want to create some layers, right? So I'm going to create a new layer, and I'm going to call it left free throw area. All right. And these are free throws, right? I know that much. I think that's a free throw. So that's maybe a medium pen weight, right? So I'm going to go to my colors here, and I'm going to choose a medium pen weight. And my medium is kind of dependent on my heavy, which I'm going to choose red. So I'll make that like a cyan color. Great. And I'm going to create another layer called right free throw area. So right free throw area. And that's going to have the same pen weight as the left one, right? And the center jump circle, which seems to be the lightest pen weight. So new layer, this is going to be the center jump circle. And I'm going to click on cyan, and we'll make that magenta. And I'm going to create one more, so border of court. That's going to be my heaviest pen weight, and we'll make that red. Oops, red. Okay, so I have all my pen weights. Let me just say one thing, right? I always get maybe one person who gets a little bit confused on the idea of the CTB file, right? Because they see over here the term line weight, and they think, oh, wait a minute, line weight. So when I click on that, it gives me these dimensional options, right? Just stay away from that. If I assign a line weight to a layer like this, it takes that genericness away from it. It takes the ability of that pen file controlling our line weights away and says, hey, we're going to define it in the interface instead of being able to change out these pen files depending on what we're doing, okay? So we're going to stay away from that. But I do have all of my layers created. I have my pen weights associated with them. I'm going to draw the outer boundary of the court first. So I'm going to click on the border of the court, and I'm going to close that up and start drawing. Now, before I start drawing, I'm going to make sure I'm in architectural units, right? Because these are feet and inches. And I only remember that because I've been doing it for a long time, but every now and again, right, you forget. And just start drawing in decimal inches.
So how did you adjust that one more time?
I clicked on architect down here on this units. If yours doesn't show down here, you can type units and hit enter and change them. Yep. Okay. So I've got 96, I've got 56. Let's see if we can get that whole thing on there. Okay. All right, so there's two ways I could go about drawing this court. I could use a rectangle and draw it, or I could use lines to draw it. My first inclination is maybe to use lines to draw it. So I'm going to click on line, and I'm going to click in space, move in the direction I want to go, and I'm going to turn my ortho on because I want a completely straight line, right? I'll tell you I have hawk eyes with crooked lines. I can see them a mile away. Those are tiny points off of your assignments, right, that are just so unnecessary. So make sure to turn on your ortho, right, F8, or click on ortho, right, and I'm going to type in 96 foot, enter, escape, escape, and it's gone off my screen, so I'm going to zoom extents. Click my middle roller, there it is. L for line, enter. I'm going to hover over the endpoint or zoom in there and grab my endpoint, click, move in the direction I want to go, type 56 foot, enter. Zoom out, pan. I could type in 96 foot, or I could hover over this endpoint of that line and see I get my apparent intersection, right? Click, click, escape. Yep.
So when I type in 96 foot, it just goes all the way off. I can't zoom extents.
So hit escape, escape. Okay, do zoom extents again. Click in your middle roller, and then zoom out just a tiny bit. Are you in architectural for sure?
Yes, architectural, so. Randomly,
There you go.
96.
There you go. Yep. Yep.
Okay, so
That's right. You were way zoomed out. It's tiny. Here's a line that's tiny.
that's bizarre.
Yeah.
And then, so for the line weight for the red, how do I, like, if I were to potentially want to select that, I go to, sorry,
That's okay. You'd have to create your layers first.
I just did.
Oh, okay. So drop
So-
down.
Already got these.
Uh-huh. That's right.
So how would I,
So just minimize that.
no.
This guy's panicking. It's good. It's selected. Just use the drop down and select layer, right? But now, escape. You always want to use that layer. Drop down and pick it, and then it will continue to draw in that layer.
Sorry.
Nope, you're good. So now the question is, right, so when I drew my line, it was very long, and I had to zoom extents to get it on my screen. But when you were zoomed so far out, it looked tiny and not proportional, right? So you can measure it and make sure it's correct. So I could come in here and I could type distance, D-I-S-T, enter, and I could click, look down here. It is indeed 96 feet, okay? So now I have my outer boundary generated, and now I need to, I'm thinking of the what I need to do next, and I'm thinking I probably should use a rectangle to draw this. So we may have to go back that route, but I'll show you why in a second. So I've got my outer boundary here, and the next thing, yeah, sorry guys, I'm gonna change my mind. I'm gonna delete it. I know, it's terrible. And I'll tell you why in a second. I'm gonna actually leave that there, and I'll draw one to the side. Okay, and I'll tell you why I've changed my mind, because you may run into this. I'm going to click on rectangle. I'm going to click in space, click. And I'm going to come down here to dimension, click. And it's going to say specify a length for the rectangle. 96 foot, enter. What is the width? 56 foot, enter. Right? And now I get to pick where I want it to go, click. Okay. The reason that I'm doing this is because I'm going to show you a new command, and it's called offset. And the way that offset functions is that if I use this to offset, it's not going to look the way that I want it to. So let me show you what's going to happen. I have my offset command right here. This is what it looks like. And the way that offset works is it allows you to take an object and to create a copy of that object a specific distance away from the first object. So what that means, right, in layman's terms is I have this outer rectangle. I want to create an identical rectangle that is inside the outer rectangle 3 feet from it. And that's what offset does, right? Offset will allow you to offset lines, rectangles, circles, right? Any kind of geometry in AutoCAD, you can offset, okay? So the way that offset works is if I click on offset, down at the command line, it says specify your offset distance. Well, in this case, my offset distance is 3 feet, but it could vary, right? So if this is 19 foot, I could offset 19 feet, right? Or if this is 19 feet, I could offset 19 feet here, right? So that's the idea behind offset. I can take one object, make a copy of it, a specific distance from the original. So I click on offset, I've identified specify your offset distance, 3 foot, enter. And now it says select the object to offset. So if I hover over this, right, or sorry, I'm going to click, and now I get a preview. If I move on the inside, do you see how it shows a preview? That is going to be offset in 3 feet. If I go to the outside, it previews it's going to offset to the outside. So I move to the inner where I want it to go, click, and I just offset it. Okay. The offset command is a continuous command. So it says, hey, what do you want to do next, right? Let me show you the problem with what I did originally, drawing this as separate individual line segments. Okay. Click to offset. You see how I can offset a line. Click. Click. Oh, look how terrible. Look at all of that messy cleanup we have to do that we don't know how to clean up yet, right?
You can select it as an object and offset it?
Uh-huh.
Could you just select the whole thing?
Oh, no. No, because they're all separate objects, right? That was my mistake I wasn't thinking ahead, right? So now I click, I click, I click, I click, and they're all separate objects. So what I did there, I mean, I did the right thing, but now you're like, oh, we don't know what to do yet, right? There's a command called trim where it's very easy to trim those objects out, but we don't know how to do that yet, right? So we do know how to draw rectangles, and we do know rectangles are one continuous polygon, and that if I offset it, it offsets the entire object, okay? So that made a really nice clean offset for our basketball court there.
So you just have to type offset.
You can type offset. The shortcut is O, enter, escape, escape, or you can type offset, enter, right? And then you're going to choose your offset distance. It can be anything. It can be 1/4 of an inch up to 200 feet, whatever, right? Whatever you need it to be. Or you can come up and initiate it right here. Okay, and that's offset. So now, I look at this, bless you, and I see I have, I'm going to do things that I know first, right? Let me just say that. I go for the easy draws first, right? I know that I've got this mid-court line right here, and I know that if I click on the line tool, or let me hit escape, actually. I need to change my layer first. Oh, my AutoCAD is kind of shrunk, so my layer properties have changed. I'm going to hover over my layer icon here, and to change my current layer, I can use my drop down here. Instead of going back to that original dialog box, I can come down and choose center jump circle, escape, and now that's my current layer, right? So I can change my current layer through this dialog box as well. But I click on line, and I know that I can find a midpoint here. Click, click, escape, right? And I know that, so that's good. Oh, I have a circle there. I know I can draw a circle. So I can go to circle, we'll do a radius, or I like the radius one. I know that I can grab the midpoint of that line, click, and if I do a 2-foot radius, 24 inches, enter, that makes a 4-foot diameter circle, right? Which is showing here, 4-foot diameter. Let's offset this, right? I could draw a second circle that has a 12-foot diameter, or I could offset the original circle 8 feet, right? Is that right? Yeah, 8 feet in between. Doesn't visually look right to me. I can offset this circle 8 feet. I'm going to type offset, enter, and where it says specify your offset distance, I'm going to type 8 foot, enter, click. It looks gigantic. I think it probably needs to be 4 feet.
It'd be 2 and 6 if you're doing radius, right?
Yeah, it'll be 4 foot. There we go. There we go. Okay, so I've just offset that, and now I have my outer circle. Okay, so I know how to do those things, and now I think, okay, now it's time to tackle maybe some of these other objects. So I've got these lines for the free throw that are 19 feet in length, right? And I know that they're there's a 12-foot distance here. You kind of have to think about how to construct it, right? Again, this is Jeff, right? I'll be sure to let him know how much you love his assignments. But I know that maybe if I draw a 19-foot line from the middle here, if I offset it 6 foot to one side and I offset it 6 foot to the other, I can get that object, right? So I'm going to do that. And you're like, I never would have thought about that, right? But you will. Eventually you'll start thinking that way. So this is a medium pen weight. So I'm going to change my layer now to my free throw. I'm going to click on line, go to the center, make sure my ortho's on, and type 19 foot, enter. And you're like, but there's not a middle line there, right? Well, I have to use it to generate the other geometry, which is completely valid, right? I'm going to type offset, enter, 6 foot, enter, because it's 12 foot. I want to do half and half on either side. Click, 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 click. And I'm going to measure it, make sure I did it right, because I don't always do it right. DIST, distance, enter. Click, click, 12 foot. Okay, so now I can click and delete that, right? And I'm going to do L for line, and I'm just going to start connecting these pieces. Escape, escape. And I have a circle that goes across there, circle. I can use the midpoint snap to generate that, right? And I'm going to draw the same thing over here. Yes, there is a command that we can use to copy it, right? But we don't know it yet. So you get some good drawing practice in. So you'll copy that. And then, we have these little lines right here. They're 3 feet in length, and they're 19 feet from that center, from this center line. There's a couple ways we could do this, right? I could offset, and and I could type 19 foot, enter. But then you're like, well, it goes all the way across, right? But what I'm going to do is I'm going to change my line weight to that red line weight. Use a line, and I'm going to draw over it. 3 foot, enter, escape. Ingenious, right? Click, delete, right? I could do that. And then if I'm smart enough, I could say, well, what is 19 plus 19? And I could offset this. That's 38 feet, right? From here to there. 38 foot, enter. Click, click. Or I could copy it over 38 feet, right? I could do that. There's something else I could do. It's called the from command, right? It's an object snap. And I have to show you what it does, and I can't talk in it, otherwise you get lost in the command. So let me show you what the from command does. Essentially, it will allow you to draw an object a specific distance from another object, right? So I want to draw this 3 foot line from this corner. All right, so let me do it. I'm going to initiate the line command, shift right click from here, click. I'm going to kind of follow my line with my cursor. The nearest snap is engaging. I'm not clicking, but I'm following it. So from this point, click over, 19 foot, enter. I want to draw a 36-inch line. Let me do that again. That doesn't look right. Those aren't lining up, are they? I did one wrong. Oh, it's from this, it's from here. Okay. Let's do it. Well, there you go, right? I could have moved it. So I'm going to initiate the line command, shift right click from here, click over, and I don't want to take my cursor like this, because if I do that, there's a tendency for AutoCAD to want to shift the line down. So I kind of trace my cursor over the line I'm following. 19 foot, enter, down, 36 inches, enter. You'll see me using the foot increment or the inch increments, right? So I feel like it's a lot quicker to type in 36 instead of 3, and then I have to take my hand off my mouse and move it over to the keyboard and hit the foot mark and hit enter, right? So you will constantly see me typing in the inches instead of like 1 foot 6, right? I'll type in 18 inches. So I don't have to go and find the foot mark and do that. Especially in a dim architecture office where you can't see your keyboard, right? You don't want to take your hand off your mouse. Let me do that one more time, right? So L for line, or click on it, and I'm going to shift right click from, click here, I drag my cursor over, 19 foot, enter, 36 inches, enter, escape. Right? I could use copy, I could use offset, I could move it, right? I could draw the line, I could L for line, right? I could draw it over the top of here, 36, enter, and it's there, right? I could do a blue selection and grab it, M for move, click, and whatever that distance happened to be, I could move it over that distance, right? So I could do that as well. Okay. Any questions so far? Okay. All right, so I think probably you'll want to focus on just getting this assignment done. So you've got these, you have this, and you have this to draw, right? And now you know how to create the layers and assign those. So you know that I feel like that's a pretty good amount of work to do. Next time we meet, we'll talk about finishing up layers, right? We'll talk about AIA layer naming conventions. We'll talk about some more advanced kind of layer stuff, and we'll work that direction. And we'll also start some preliminary printing so that you can see how your layers actually function when they print. Okay, so we'll do some of that as well. All right, that is all. That was a long one, wasn't it?